happening, everybody? Clay Pike here, the Jupiter Farmer, and today we're going to look at planting some seeds. I have right here some collard greens, which I love. Eat them almost every night, either that or mustard greens, and some beets. And I've set up above here an overhead camera so that I can get the close-up shots. And I'm going to show you how I label them and how I get a precise depth on these plants. So just as a little tip, this time of year here where I live in South Florida, I don't know, in your part of the world, you know, it'll vary depending on what zone you live in. But these trays right here can be readily had from your local landscaper. They use these throughout the country for impatiens. And so I have friends and customers of mine that will save these for me in these cups. I have enough to give to my friends, and when I always plant way more seeds than I can use, and what I end up doing is, giving them away, and I just give them the tray, give them everything. I don't have to worry about it, I don't say, hey, I need that tray back, because I have plenty. They're easy to store. They stack inside of each other. You can get 15 or 20 of these trays in less than a foot, maybe 2 square foot of a space that you could save them up. And then I have these here. These might take up a little more room, but anyway, so this is how we do it, guys. Real simply, on the back of your package, you have the planting depth on every one of these. And for these beets, it calls for 1/2 inch of depth, and the spacing is pretty important, but I tell you, over the last couple of years, I've had real good success with putting 4 or 5 seeds in one of these cups, fairly spaced apart like that, and it's worked really well. I'll stick them in the bed, maybe stick them 12 inches apart, each one of these cups with 4 or 5 seeds in each one, and it works really good. So it calls for 1/2 inch of planting depth. So what I do is open this up, and sometimes, can't get your finger in here, okay, that'll work. Show you what the seeds look like here. They're pretty good size, you can see. So they're easy to place. So to get the proper depth of 1/2 inch, what I do is I have a table set up on a couple cinder blocks. It's almost knee high, my table, on cinder blocks, and I have these 20-gallon pots that I keep full. So the nice thing about this method is you don't ever have to bend over. So if I were planting 1/4 inch deep, I'd probably come in right at that lip right there. You can see there's a little lip on these cups right here, and then if you plant it to that, if you fill the pot to that depth and then lightly tamp it, that gets you about 1/4 inch of depth, just below that lip right there. So that's how I kind of measure the depth. But since we need to go 1/2 inch, we come in and we'll go maybe 1/4 inch below the depth of that rim right there. And when you tamp that down, that gets you about 1/2 inch of soil. Okay, so show you how fast this is. We just come in here and do like this. It goes really quick. Once you get your rhythm going, I can do maybe 6 trays an hour or more. And so we're looking at like 6 trays an hour, and there's 15 in a tray. That's simple math. That's what, 90 plants an hour. And I've had really good success with it. So usually what I'll do is I'll have a little music going on or some kind of educational material. Right now on my player I have this going on. I'm not gonna bore you with it, but it's pretty cool. Discover your genius, and God knows I need help discovering my genius, but it's really cool to be able to spend time down here, get some good literature in your brain while you're grounding with the earth. Here's some more beets. I've had terrible luck this year with beets, guys. I'm getting beat down by the rain. We got a little bit of a rain going on right now. You can probably hear it's a Sunday. What is the date? Oh, I'm all over the map here. Let me see here. I think it's the 22nd. Yep, November 22nd. And we talk about walking out of the frame a half a dozen times. But I tell you, it's nice to be able to do something as a hobby that'll benefit your health, give you some solace, and if you fill your mind with good, positive information in the process, you come away a little I don't want to say revigorated, because most of the time you come away exhausted, but it's a good exhausted. So, all right, so we got that. So we'll come in here and tamp these down. I do them all same time. They all look pretty good. They all look like they're about a ½ an inch below. And I got my little Canon selfie stick camera. We'll turn this bad boy on here and hit the record button and get a tight shot here of what I'm talking about as far as the depth goes. And so now here I've got the beets, and I'm gonna show you what I do here. Usually I just hold the package like this and get some right to the edge like that, and just, it doesn't have to be exact. Knock a few of those in there, and sometimes I'll come back in and move them around a little bit, but that's how we do that. There we go. Okay. More there. Oops. All right, that's that. And then another thing I do, which you 100% organic people are not gonna love it. I'm like 50% organic because I do use some fertilizer, and this Osmocote is awesome for in the pots. It won't burn your seedlings. I've actually had tomato plants reach about 1.5 feet, actually set fruit and develop little baby tomatoes, nothing you could eat, but it's amazing how this stuff right here will definitely help your plants develop. And so sometimes I'll come in here, if I got a whole bunch together, I'll just take them and kind of helping them along. And if I got too many in one tray, like this guy's probably got a dozen, I'll take a couple and stick them over here and just go through it real quick before I put that Osmocote in there, because that Osmocote will definitely look a whole hell of a lot like these seeds. So we're looking pretty good. Just move these around a little bit, give them a little bit more room. They will bunch up together and they'll push each other away. Okay, so this is how I do this. Not a whole bunch, just, oh, that's too much. Just a little bit. This is a slow feeding coated fertilizer that you see a lot of times in potted plants, and it's, go ahead and give you a shot of that. And it's, let's see what it says here. Oh boy, my eyes aren't what they used to be. Can't really focus in. I'm trying to see how long the life of the feeding of this is. Oh, anyway, won't go there. All right, last but not least, we'll go ahead and set this camera down. this is kind of a nice close image. I'm gonna do one. So I put some in the pot, and I just shake it right in, just a little bit, like that. Oops. Try not to get it all clumpy. I try to get these clumps broken up. Anyway, so that's how I do that. We'll turn this guy off, set this guy down. That was kind of cool, you know, something different, a little different perspective. I got the overhead cam, don't really need it, but we'll have some additional info to play with on our editing. So it's all just about being creative and having fun, playing in the garden. All right, so here, this is how I do this. It is quick, guys. When I've done this so many times over the years that I got it down to a little bit of a science. So we're just doing a 1/2 inch here, and you know exactly what we're doing. And you can take your cup and just go like this in the pot. If you got any clods in there, this thing will break them up pretty good. You know, you don't have to go through the whole thing, just got to get whatever top surface, and it'll break these up. They break up really easy anyway, but it's always nice to have them nice and fluffy when you put them in there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's all about, you know, it takes just a little bit of practice, but then once you take your hands here, and just go through, kind of level these out like that. Sometimes you might have to add a little bit. There, and then tamp these down, just like that. All right. Okay, and then, you know, the water will knock everything down. And then what I do is Ziploc baggie, a little pad of paper, and I'll take this, fold it off, because a lot of these I kind of know, you know, how to space them, but occasionally there'll be a new variety. I won't really know exactly what it calls for, and I don't want to have to go try to find this pack and read on the back. And I also like to know the date that I planted. So on this is November 22nd, 2015, and it's a beet. And on the front here, it'll tell you 59 days to maturity. So I put 59 days. And then on the back, not that I need to know, because I've done this before, but just to show you how, in the description here, it'll tell you that to sow thinly in rows 12 inches apart. So I'll write row 12 inches, and that helps a little bit. And then it tells you to thin them out 1/2 inch. No, well, it says cover with 1/2 inch of soil, but I think, oh, thin them out 3 inches apart, but I don't, but I'm gonna put space 3 inches. And that way, you know, I know what date it was planted, how many days to maturity, and the spacing. And I do this on every one. I like to know when I put them in the ground, and you know, how long it's gonna take for them to be mature. All right, then I just take this and I just fold it up like this, try to get all the air out of it, like that, turn it over, and then I'll take it and sit it right inside here, just a little bit sticking up like that, and then that way it stays dry. The sun doesn't really get to the ink, and some inks hold up better than others. I found the cheaper pens, you know, even if they're not exposed to the sun, they tend to fade, makes it hard to read. But that's it, that's how I do the trays. So what I'll do is I'll sit here sometimes and do a 6 or 10 trays. It might take an hour or two, but I'm listening to my literature, and it's nice. And if I get tired of that, I'll just put a little music on. Anyway, Clay Pike, Jupiter Farmer, thanks for watching.